Welcome to the Time Management Podcast with me, your host, Abigail Barnes. I'm a productivity coach, global speaker, time management author, and award-winning entrepreneur on a mission to share the 888 formula with the world and to remind you that it's your time. Leave it to me to bring you new time management tips, tricks, tools, and strategies, to introduce you to guests, research, and case studies from around the world, and to give you a simple 5-step process you can follow to up-level your productivity, achieve your goals, and create a life that exceeds your wildest dreams. I'm so excited that you're here, so let's get started. Hello and welcome to the show. Today I am joined by the amazing Chris Paton. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Abigail. I'm really delighted to be here.
I'm so excited to have a conversation with this incredible human who is going to share around 3-4 decades worth of experience and his relationship with time. So as always, let's just dive straight in. And who is Chris Paton in a nutshell?
A former officer in the Royal Marines. I spent just over 18 years in the Royal Marines in a variety of different jobs, all the ones that you'd expect, hiding under bushes in the middle of holiday hotspots, through to being the head of planning operations in Helmand Province in Afghanistan. And then my last job before I transitioned out of the military for 2 and a bit years was head of strategy on Afghanistan to the David Cameron government when he was Prime Minister. And across the last 12 years, I have built from scratch a consultancy that specializes in organizational culture and people development and fixing people problems in businesses, whether it's around scaling businesses or M&A or stuff like that. I live down in the southwest in Cornwall. I have been married for 24 years, have 2 grown-up children, and now a 12-week-old granddaughter.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I didn't realize you were a grandfather. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's a pretty special life moment, it has to be said.
So this is going to be a big holiday, Christmas for you and your family this year with a little one.
It is. It is. It's going to be quite special. It's going to be quite special. And we've got my parents coming down to us this Christmas. So we're going to end up with great-grandparents, grandparents, and yeah, all children and grandchildren all in the house on Christmas Day. So
Wow.
for somebody like me who is a people, out and out people person, that is something I'm really looking forward to.
Wow. 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 What a life moment. So to get this conversation going, talk to us about your relationship with time over the years. Have you always been good at time? I imagine the military and time was a big life learning lesson. I'd love to hear your experiences.
I guess it depends on what your definition of good with time is. Um, so in the military, you're quite right. You know, you're very disciplined on time, and I still feel I'm very disciplined on time. There's no doubt about it. That military experience has inculcated in me getting to places, allowing time to travel to places, allowing a bit of flex within the time to get there. So I'm there 5 minutes before, prepping before things. That is definitely something that runs through. Am I good at allowing for the correct balance of time or blend of time? I had a conversation not so long ago with people talking about work-life blend rather than work-life balance. Do I get those various aspects right and allocate enough time to the different aspects? I'd say I'm not particularly great at that still now. In the military, there was a lot of obviously physical exercise, and that's something that's quite important to me. I like to keep fit. It's important for my mental health as much as my physical health. But through this summer, there was a point where I hadn't done any exercise at all apart from dog walk for best part of 3 months. So yes, discipline and structure around timetabling, what my agenda looks like, building in the right amount of time to do the right things in the right shape and in the right focus, probably not so good.
And so before you entered the military, were you good with time, or do you feel like that's where you earned your stripes, metaphorically and time-wise?
No, I was pretty good with time because when we were brought up to be on time, to be good with time. Not a strict household, but you were expected to be where you were meant to be, and that was still part of me. University, I did a very boring university degree, which meant that it was a lot of time in lectures. And so, you didn't have the opportunity just to kick back and chill out. It was a fairly busy degree. So I kind of went from an upbringing of being on time and being quite disciplined, and you had jobs to do and then work to do. At age 16, I was jumping on a milk delivery van with somebody else and being driven around and helping with that before I went to school. So I had to be up early in the morning. And so yeah, I've kind of always been good at that bit. My daughter says, if I was coming to arrange to pick her up from somewhere, I was never early and never late. It was always bang on time somehow. She said you could always rely that the car would pull up bang on time.
Love that. And I bet sometimes it was, yeah, if you could just wait round the corner for 5 minutes and be 5 minutes late, then, that would be good. Thanks, Dad.
There may have been a few of those as we were going through those teenage into adult years before they start driving themselves around, which becomes wonderful.
This is for the benefit of the listeners. I've known Chris for a huge number of years. We met at a networking event back in the day. And I'm sure I bored Chris with the stories about being in the Air Cadets in my teenage years, but it's not something that I've talked about on the podcast. So just for the reference of people, I was in the Air Cadets from the age of 13 until 18 because I wanted to be a pilot. I'd watched Top Gun. It was about that time, and I thought that was a good idea. Where I'm going with this was they had a phrase that was if you weren't 5 minutes early, you were late. Was that something that you were taught in the branch of the military that you were in?
Yes, absolutely. It was absolutely rigorous. The downside of that was that if you were going to some sort of large scale thing, everybody at their separate levels would add their 5 minutes on. So if you were quite junior in the organization, you would find yourself turning up 5 minutes before the time that you'd been given, only to find that you're about an hour and a half earlier than you were actually needed because everybody had added 5 minutes on. So that got a little bit frustrating. Hurry up and wait, we used to call it.
Wow, wow, that's funny. So it's really sounding to me like you've always been aware of time and you've always been kind of good, in essence, from my understanding and what I'm hearing, good with managing it and using it. How has your perspective of time changed over the years? And do you see that time is something you can manage, or is time something that you allocate? And if so, how are you allocating it these days? And perhaps what's changed your perspective of it over the years?
Yeah, so up to the point at which I left the military, I wouldn't say that you're really able to manage time because you've got a series of things you have to do and where you have to be, and effectively, it's being you're setting your own timelines to a degree as you get more grown up in the military and you get to more senior leadership positions or more senior positions regardless. You can start to set your own time to a degree, but not always. I then had a real shift when I left the military and set up the business. The big joke in the house was that I'd left the Royal Marines to spend more time with the family, but I was actually spending considerably less time with the family. Um, and that was because I'd chosen a particular path. I didn't choose like several of my peers to go off into another organization, whether it be some sort of startup or scale up or whatever else it is. I kind of fell and stumbled into through a series of unfortunate events into building my own thing from scratch by myself. Now, anybody that's been through that or explored that, with your own setup, Abigail, you'll know, it's quite punishing. Um, Somebody said to me the other day, when 12 years into your business, are you still enjoying it? And I said, to be honest, I'm only just starting to enjoy it because it was 8.5 to 9 years of just relentless grind and effort, and every single waking moment seemed to be orientated around the business and what the business was doing and where it was going, and recovering from problems in the business, recovering from blips that the business was having. So that was a significant step change and shift. I then had quite a wake-up call in 2016. So this would have been 4 years into building the business when we suddenly discovered I'd got a tumor in my head and needed to go and have a tumor removed.
Wow.
And having come out the other side of that, a lot of people said, "Oh, I guess you're going to now ease back, take your time, and really, enjoy life." And I was like, no, I'm actually the opposite. I want to hit all the levers of my social, my work life, my family life, and push all of them fully forward because I've just had this point where actually it could have all stopped.
Mm.
So I'm now determined to go even faster and even harder. Did that for 8 years, and just now I feel I'm just about starting to get to the point where the business and the team that I have in the business is large enough and multidisciplinary enough across the different sort of functional areas that I can start to just ease back a little bit and think about the so what and the what's next, creating a bit of time. But I still need also to kind of be forced into things a bit back to my military side. So some friends and I go away every couple of years if we can and do some ridiculous mountaineering, skiing up hills and up mountains and then going over the top. And um, we've got a trip on next March, and one of the people in the team sent through an Advent fitness challenge where you've got to do a minimum of 30 minutes a day continuous exercise. And actually, that's been really good for me
Mm.
because I don't want to let my team down because we're together as a team on this site. So that's forced me to do much more than I even would do now thinking about it. So I've gone through, I guess, a series of different parts on that curve and that graph as I've gone over time from the military through the early stages of the business, through the medical side of things, and on now to a mature business that's doing well, and I can actually start to have a slightly different emphasis and a different relationship with time.
Thank you for sharing all of this. There's so many incredible tangents that we can take this conversation off on now. And I just want to touch on the first bit because we met at a networking event. So obviously we were in the early stages of our businesses, fresh-eyed and full of enthusiasm, not knowing what we didn't know. And it really is a journey, isn't it? This whole entrepreneurial, well, I'll set up my own thing and then I'll have more time and more freedom. And then the irony.
Yes. Yeah, it is tricky. It is tricky, because you're having to do everything. If I think that setting something up and starting off on your own as just an individual is probably, one of the more challenging routes to take because, if you're wanting to obviously to earn a living, so you are doing some delivery. and you're charging some clients money for that delivery. But the whole time you're doing that, you're not developing any new business. So you start to go through this horrible go away and build business while you're not earning any, and then deliver the business while you're not building any business. And that sine wave kind of goes on. So, and everybody's different. There'll be people who will have jumped off to set up a business with 3 or 4 people in the business. So to start off with, that's a little bit better for them. They've got a bit of mutual support. They can talk to one another and share with one another how tough it is. And some can be doing delivery while others are doing business development. So it sort of depends on where that, if people do go into the entrepreneurial world, where they enter it. But it is tricky. It is tricky trying to get everything around, because people don't know about you. People don't know who you are. They don't know what you're doing. Coming from the military world can be a bit of a hindrance, because although people might respect what you've done, and are curious about what you've done, that you don't have any business acumen, you don't have any business experience. And so sometimes you can be having a fantastic conversation with somebody, and you can be sitting there thinking, oh, I know exactly how I can help you, but they don't get that same connection. They don't tie that together and go, yes, you can definitely help me. They have this perception that you're a military person, you're going to come in and just bark orders and shout at people.
So with the benefit of 12 years experience, and let's just couch this question because it's so easy to see the things looking back, but with the benefit of this experience, let's put this in a positive spin.
Yeah.
From a time point of view, what would you say, looking back over the 12 years, were activities and time drains or time expenses, if you like, where you would make changes quicker, faster, and we can only do it with the knowledge that we have today? So
No, absolutely. This is going to sound really quite critical and unpleasant, and I don't see myself as that type of person, but not not spending a lot of time chasing mirages, where the thing that I discovered a bit too late, really, in my transition from the military to the commercial world, is in the military, if people don't like what they say, what you're saying to them, or don't agree with what you're saying to them, or understand what you're saying but don't want it, they will tell you straight away. And so very quickly you get oh, that's where we are. And we can now shift to either something different or stop altogether or move on. And I found that when I first started doing the commercial side of things, I had an inordinate amount of conversations with people who were very, very positive, very encouraging. This is fantastic. We're really enjoying this. Yes, we should definitely do something. Send me through some bits and pieces and we'll have a follow-up conversation. And they never really had any intention of working with you. They were just basically being polite. And I wasn't used to that at all. I was used to people saying, that's great, kind of interested. I can see why you're doing it, but it's not for us. Thank you. And so I wasted and hoovered up a huge amount of my own time and my family's time, which is that's the bit that I really struggle with, if I'm honest. 12 years in, is I still feel a huge sense of guilt of not being around for my family over the last 12 years, having not been around for my family much before that either. But a lot of that time was spent following up on people who'd seemed to be very positive, and then they would continue to be slightly positive. Oh yes, we must, yeah, absolutely, we must get that coffee in. And they're not meaning to, they're not being horrible. They just don't want to tell you that they're not interested. And I found that very hard, and I think that that's one thing that I would definitely change.
I think that is such a great example, and a big one in the business industry, and a big one. And so thank you so much for sharing it. A mentor said once in a training that I was on, people are either committed or they're interested. Your job is to work out which one, and if they're interested, walk away, and if they're committed, sign them up, which is easier said than done. And I probably, like you, get slightly frustrated these days with the logical answers from people who aren't in the arena, swinging the swords. And so obviously this person was giving this advice or this strategy because they had been in the arena swinging the sword, but it really was a lovely soundbite. Well, work out if they're committed or interested and then move on. But from a time point of view and an energy point of view, and I'm not sure where you are on the scale of time and energy, and seeing that time doesn't truly exist in the way that we believe it's time, that it's more the energy that we're allocating to it rather than the time. We have a certain amount of energy every day. Our battery drains. So are you actively allocating energy these days to things versus how much time am I spending on it?
Yeah, so I'll come to that in a sec, but just picking up on previous what you said, I think you know, not getting distracted by people who are interested, not committed, is quite difficult if you're a specific type of person. I am somebody that likes relationships. You and I have known each other a long time. The clients that we're now working with and have been working with clients that we have a relationship with, and I've now made that one of the values in the business, right? It's a personal connections. So whoever we're working with, we have that personal connection with their teams, with everybody. So we're talking to apprentices in a business all the way up to the CEO. Everybody should feel like we've got a personal connection with them. But if you are that type of person, it's actually quite hard to just walk away from somebody who's interested, because I'm interested in them. I'm interested in them as a person. I want to know more about them, what makes them tick, what their problems are, and how I can help them. Or if I can't help them and the business can't help them, any suggestions that I can make that they could go away and implement by themselves. So that bit's quite tough. Um, do I do well on energy versus time? No, not at all. I I will focus a little bit. So I knew obviously that we had this podcast, in the diary, and I knew that time was there. So I deliberately created a bit of space around it. And I deliberately went off and did something this morning that gives me a bit of a buzz and a lift so that I could come to this feeling like I got lots of energy. Um, am I always good at doing that? No, I'm not. Absolutely not. And there'll be times where I find myself having a conversation, and it could be at any point in the day. It's not always at the end of the day. It can be sometimes at the start of the day. And I know I had a session with my team, and it was a virtual chat. We were all connecting up about some issue within the business not so long ago, and I was just super tired. And as to your point, the battery was flat, and I kind of reverted back to being quite short, get to the point. If you're an insights person, I sort of shifted all towards a more a red personality. Be brief, be gone, tell me what I need to know, and I'm going to be quite just blunt and tell, back again. And when I'm normally quite a yellow green person, you could see the whole team was sitting there going, "What's going on with Chris?" And it was mid-morning. It wasn't like it was at the end of the day and I'd had a long day. I'd had a long couple of days, and the battery was flat. So no is the short answer. I'm not good at going, right, if I look at this day that I've got coming up, I'm going to save some energy for this bit here and save some energy for that bit there. And therefore I'm going to do this in between the two and dial down here. No, I'm not good at that at all.
Thank you for the honesty, but I love, love, love to hear that you are aware of it. And so my question I want to ask you next is, what did you do this morning to make sure that you got into a good energy state for this conversation?
I like taking the dogs for a walk. I'm normally on the road about 4 days a week, if not more. So when I am at home, to get out and take the dogs for a walk is great. It was teeming down with rain. It's cold, dark. The dogs were both hugely unimpressed, but I was striding along with this water pouring off me in the dark, feeling like I was $1 million because it's just like, yeah, come on, is that? It's almost like that, that in the Tom Hanks film, where he's on the boat and in the ocean, and the storm's raging, and his friend is shouting, "Is that all you've got?" Being out in bad weather for me is something that I actually perversely enjoy. So that gave me a real buzz, and I came in, had a shower, had some breakfast, sat down, had some time to look through some of the stuff that I've got coming up today. So I gave myself an hour, first of all, just to look through, make sure that I was happy with what's going on through the rest of the day and deal with any time sensitive bits. And then I felt like, okay, I'm set up. I've had a good bit of exercise. I've been out and done something I enjoy doing. I'm happy that there's nothing lurking in my inbox that will cause me a problem for now. And now I'm sat down, ready to go.
Tell us something that you do on a daily basis that you really feel like most people don't do. And it might be a bit odd to you, but what is something that you're doing from a time point of view, from a life point of view? Is there something that you're eating? Is there something that you're doing? Is there something that you're reading, something that you're thinking, somewhere that you're going? What is like almost a secret sauce, ritual recipe that you do that you think most people don't do?
I subscribe to some online kind of news articles, I suppose. And there's one called The Knowledge, and it's just a really nice summation of kind of global news, if you like, and issues presented in a really nice way. And it's about a 5-10 minute read, and it's like my little secret pleasure that at some point in the day I will switch off entirely from everything that's going on just to read the knowledge. Um, and it's that 5-10 minutes of complete and utter switch off and focus on something else, and something that's not family, it's not the house, it's not the work, it's not the business, it's not me and my fitness or anything. It's just, oh, I'm really enjoying this moment, if you like, of pause. That's definitely one for me. Um, the obvious ones we've already mentioned. I do enjoy being able to get away and do some exercise. And if I get the chance, my favorite type of exercise is to go for a swim. And not just because I like swimming, but because it's sensory deprivation. So I have my head down and I am swimming along with my goggles on, head in the water, so I can't hear anything, and all I can see is the bottom of the pool. So again, for me, it's a way in which I can absolutely just switch off and go into. I've got a good friend, Chris Middleton, who used to talk about the power of daydreaming and just allowing yourself time in a day to daydream. And I find that I'm quite often daydreaming when I'm swimming because I'm going along. I'm keeping track of what I've done because I'm setting myself a certain time or a certain distance that I want to swim. But because I've got that sensory deprivation, it just allows my mind to just spin off and go wandering off into all sorts of random corners. And yeah, those are the bits that I find really help me.
What I'm hearing you say is that these are activities that allow you to switch your brain different activities and give it a rest and give it some release and give it some other inputs from other areas. With the swimming, do you count when you're doing the strokes?
Well, I know how many strokes I do to breathing both sides. I do 5 strokes and I take a breath, and then 5 strokes, and I take a breath on the other side. But I don't count. I used to, but now I think it's become such a rhythm and a pattern that actually it just happens naturally.
Sometimes the counting is the way that we can mindfully guide our mind into the present moment. But obviously what you're demonstrating is that you've built the muscle memory to the point where then this exercise allows you to use it for ideation and daydreaming, which is fantastic. So I love that one. Thank you for sharing your answer to that question. What are you working on? What have you got coming up for 2024? And how can we find out more about you, about Quirk Solutions and connecting?
Well, people can just connect with me on LinkedIn. To be honest, that's the easiest way that they'll find me, and more than happy to follow up with people there. If they want to know a little bit more about the company, they can go to quirksolutions.co.uk. And again, there's a contact form there. We've got a lot coming up over 2024, and the business is growing quite nicely. We've got some new people joining us, which we're very excited about, who are starting in January. We've had 10 new team members join us this year, so there's a fair bit of work going on. The work is a nice mixture. I feel a nice blend of people development and leadership development that we're running for some clients. So we've got some packages running on 2-day or half-day or even 5-day packages, depending what people want, for leadership development and skills within businesses. We're doing a lot at the moment of culture diagnostics, and particular culture diagnostics around M&A. So helping organizations do M&A a lot better, because they've done the due diligence around financials and legals, but the thing that trips everybody up is the people side of things, and bringing different cultures together. And we can literally produce a map of both cultures in both organizations, and then show where those are aligned or misaligned, and what we're going to do to bring that alignment together quicker. So that's good fun. Really enjoy seeing that happen, and the difference that can make to clients, getting the integration done an awful lot quicker, so that the whole thing starts to click and fizz. That's good fun. And then we're doing some strategy work for an organization that's expanding globally with a brand new service offering, and they wanted to really have somebody keep an eye across their strategy and help them with their strategy. So we're doing that. So yeah, there's lots of different areas, but it's all stuff that we really enjoy. Another we only got 3 values, but another one is positive change. That's a big thing for all of us, is positive change for us as a team, growing, learning, developing, helping each other, but positive change for the people that we work with. I don't have an awful lot of interest in going and supporting a company that isn't really committed to really wanting to change things. I want to go into companies that really want to see change, and we can enable that, and then seeing it happen. Because otherwise you're just wasting everybody's time.
And where are you and your organization on AI? How are you embracing it, not embracing it? What's the learning curve on that one? Because this seems to be a conversation everybody's having.
Given that we are about trying to develop people skills and behaviors, right? I mean, a lot of what we do is around helping organizations achieve their strategies and achieve their targets, but we're not doing it through working out what their market is doing. We're not doing it through working out what their clients and their client base is doing, or the competitors are doing. We're not doing it around if you like, those different factors, or the technical design of a strategy. We can do that and we understand it. What we're really focused on is, how does the people side of that engine come together to make it work? How do the strategic planning pieces cascade down through the organization? How do people become more empowered? How do they get more accountability within the organization? So, because of that, for us, a lot of what we're doing is being in a room with people and talking. So, the AI side of things there is a little bit limited. Where we are bringing in some AI is on the culture diagnostics that we're doing because we've put together some technology. So we can now go to an organization, some of our clients have got, up to 1,500 employees. We tend to operate in sort of mid-market and scaling businesses that are looking to grow really fast. We do have some corporate clients, we do have some SME clients, but the majority is in that central area, mid-market area. And so to be able to use the AI to interpret the results that we get back from those culture diagnostics and to start to do the initial analysis, that's been super interesting to do. Saving us a lot of time because then we're looking at what the AI is suggesting and saying, yes, that would make sense, or actually, no, we disagree with you, AI, on this one. But using it in that way to help interpret and provide a much quicker result for the client on what the culture diagnostic is and what we're sharing back with them about how they can improve the culture of their organizations. That's where we're starting to use it.
Fantastic. I'm hearing you say that you're using this AI as a tool within your organization and that really your main focus is on empowering the talent to identify their key skill sets in order to be able to differentiate themselves. I feel like the conversation is part hype and part usefulness, that this is outsourcing of the 90s, that this is just a new phase, and it's really for us to understand how it can assist us versus replace things. I feel in essence that everything is always about evolving, evolving, evolving. Will this skill set, this piece of knowledge help make the process better? Yes or no? If it's no, then we'll do it using whatever we have. And if it's yes, then that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. You're quite right. We aren't using it to replace anything. What we're using it for is a way of gaining time, which is ironic, right? Given what we're chatting about here, adds value for the people that we're connected with and that we're working with or talking to, is being with our team and being with the people on my team and learning from them and then sharing thoughts and helping those organizations and those individuals improve. Well, for me, therefore, I want to drive up the amount of contact time that people have with my team because that's where we make a real difference because of the individuals that I've got and the brilliant individuals that I've got in the business. So do I really want to have some of my team and their time spent analyzing results? No, not particularly. I want them out with the contact time with people. So what can I bring in that helps us analyze the results, and do some of that work for us? Well, that's the AI. So that's great. Let's bring that in, plug that in there, because then that allows us to do even more of the stuff that adds value.
Fantastic. I love it. So as we wrap this episode up, Chris, is there any question you haven't been asked, you'd have liked to be asked, and or if there are any thoughts that you've got on time that you would like to share with the audience?
I don't think so. I suppose, it's going to sound horribly lecturing, but the only thing that I would share is that, having recently become a grandfather, I have found myself now a couple of times at night, if I've woken up in the night, I have found myself ruminating on how much time I have left because, that is a life moment as you become a grandparent, where you suddenly realize, actually, yeah, I am now a lot closer to not being here than I have been to being here. And that has caused me to definitely ask myself more questions around what am I doing? What should I be doing? How much should I be doing of what? And have I always made the right sort of choices on use of my time? And I wouldn't ever be the sort of person that will then beat myself up senselessly about I haven't made the best use of my time over the years. As I've said, earlier in this chat, I do feel guilty about the amount of time I spent away from the family, but they in returns often say to me, but we wouldn't have the life that we now have if you hadn't done the things that you've done. So I'm almost beating myself up, but they're appreciating it and supporting me. But I am now just having a little bit more of a questioning approach to what am I doing? Where am I going? How much time am I spending on this? Because I'm conscious that I am getting to the point where in my life, I need to appreciate the time that I have left. And it's up until this point, I guess, either through experiences of being in combat situations that I've survived or coming out of the Tumour that I survived, you get a little bit of a superhero. Well, I'm I'm invincible. And actually I'm just coming to the point now where I'm like, no, you're not invincible and time is finite and I need to start looking at that a lot more closely.
Thank you for sharing that. Again, such a vulnerable answer. What I'm hearing you say there is that you're really alchemizing your next step and next chapter. Is there anything that you've come to the conclusion of, this is what I'm going to do more of in 2024, and this is what I'm going to do less of, or is it too early to say yet?
So I have an idea of where I'd like to be at the end of 2025.
Wow,
And 2024 is part of the progression towards that. So I have set myself a very deliberate shift. And I understand, yeah, the processes and the things I'm going to need to do to get from A to B. Um, but it's going to be an incremental shift rather than a I'm now doing this.
fantastic. Well, watch this space. That sounds very cryptic, very exciting. Um, Chris, Paton, thank you so, so much for your time. I appreciate you are a very busy man and you have shared some incredible wisdom and experience with us on this episode. Today, Chris has shared where you can reach out to him on LinkedIn. All of those links, as always, will be in the show notes. Until next time, my friends, stay safe, stay well, and don't forget, it's your time. Thanks for joining us, Chris. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you loved what you heard, be sure to let me know by leaving a review so I can keep the good stuff coming. Come and say hi on Instagram at Success by Design Training, or visit my website, successbydesigntraining.com, or connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search Abigail Barnes. Until next time, don't forget, you are amazing and it's your time.